Good evening, everyone. This International Women's Day, the WICCI National Aviation Council, in collaboration with the Indian Women Pilots Association, IWPA, presents a powerful fireside chat featuring environmental leader Sumaira Abdulali. Sumaira Abdulali, a convener of Awaaz Foundation, is a nationally and internationally recognized environmental activist whose work on illegal sand mining and noise pollution has driven landmark policy changes across India. Welcome, Sumaira. From filing the first public interest litigation against sand mining to driving citizen-led movements that reduced festival noise levels in Mumbai to the noise levels at airports, her advocacy has reshaped environmental governance all over India. An Ashoka Fellow and recipient of multiple national and international awards, she has addressed global forums, contributed to the UN environmental deliberations, and spoken at leading universities worldwide. In this special Women's Day dialogue, this conversation will explore her work on noise pollution around airports, her work around policy advocacy and strategic litigation for environmental reform, and her wisdom on women leading systemic changes in sustainability and governance. Finally, over to you, Sumaira. And the first question that I have is actually going back to your mom. Okay, I was told that your mom was also an aviator. So could you just start it from there and then we go across through your life's journey as well?
Thank you so much, first of all, Rakhee and Harpreet and the Indian Women Pilots Association for inviting me. I'm so delighted to be here because my association with IWPA begins when I was a child and my mother was starting to learn how to fly when I was not yet a year old. And my time around the Bombay Flying Club in the gardens playing with the background sound of planes, always there. And my mother learned how to fly because her husband, father and brothers all learned how to fly. And she just didn't want to be left out. So she started when I was a baby. And she took me up for the first time when I was 3 years old. And then when I was 17, I started to fly myself, much before I learned how to drive. In fact, when I learned how to drive, I remember my flying instructor saying that now you're getting it all wrong because you're mixing up what your feet are supposed to do. Mm-hmm. The pedals are for steering, not for braking, as suddenly you're doing. So I actually learned how to fly before I learned how to drive. So my parents used to go on cross-country flights together. They'd take 2 planes and go to Jaipur, go here, go there. And so flying has always been a part of my life. At the same time, environment has been a part of my life as well, because we spent a lot of time out in the wilderness. And so these 2 things run through my entire life from my very early childhood till now.
How amazing. Isn't it like, mom and dad trying to be together and then flying comes as a, what do you say, a bonding factor, and then it passes through generations. How beautiful is that? So the second question that I have is that, you just did not leave your interest to flying. You also broadened your horizon and your interest to environment. And you became an activist in noise and, sand areas. Now, I will first touch upon the noise because the noise pollution affects the aviation industry directly. And we are all enthusiastic about knowing about the noise pollution and the norms in the world and in India and your work there. And then I will move to the activities that you do in the sand industry as well. So tell us a little bit about the noise pollution work and how did your interest start in that area? I know it is an area where a lot in India is not still spoken about, although in the Western world, noise pollution is seen as one of the critical factors, and especially when the Concords were being flown. At that point of time, it became a very important topic for the local, citizens around that area. So would love to listen to about the noise pollution work that you've done.
Well, when I was flying and trying to get my private pilot's license in the US, I realized how strict they were about noise controls. And of course, now I'm talking of 40 years ago. But even then, you couldn't low fly over residential areas, as a student pilot. And in India, there were no such rules. And of course, for many years in between, I stopped flying. And, I just didn't have the opportunity or the time with young children and all that. And since I was not a commercial pilot ever. But when I started working on noise, which happened quite by accident, because again, I had children and I wanted to do something with my time, but not have a full-time job so that I could spend time with them. And I thought, oh, well, my uncle asked me for help with some noise, and I thought, oh, well, I can do this part-time, maybe do some typing for him or something like that. And so I took it up and realized what a large issue it was after I took it up. And in the process of working on noise pollution, I realized many things which I had not realized before, which was that it's not a simple issue as I had thought it was, just a health issue, just a nuisance, as my uncle had, asked me to help him so he could sleep at night. But it was actually a very, very different kind of an issue with a lot of political inputs as well. And that there would be a lot of opposition to my work, which I had not expected. I thought, well, people just don't know that this is noisy. Everyone knows, for example, in America, you can't overfly. And here, if you take the noisiest thing that happens in this country, which is the festival season, that should be the easiest to stop. This is my deluded thinking of the time. Because it's a matter of a decision to stop it. But when I started taking up the issues and started facing the pushback, in one of the most controversial actions that I did, which was to take noise readings at a political rally, it was said by politicians that I should, instead of stopping them, go and stop the airport. And that was my first introduction really to aviation noise, because it sounded so ridiculous at the time when noise was not an issue, that the very first thing you would try and do is stop the airport. But I also, at around the same time, this is around 2009 or so, at around the same time, I also got some complaints from people that there were some helipads being set up on private buildings, and there were some hearings in the government which I attended. And I felt like maybe I know a little bit about aircraft noise now, and I was in a position to measure the helicopter noise while landing and taking off, and to prove to the Bombay High Court, where I had public interest litigation pending, that this was far in excess of what was good for people's health or was allowed by the noise rules, particularly in a very crowded city like Mumbai. If you have every luxury new tower having helipads on top, maybe the residents of the tower itself can insulate themselves. But certainly going back towards the noise that, the flying noise when I was a student, where you couldn't fly over residences, told me that other people could not, who were living nearby. And the High Court agreed with me, and the central government agreed with me, and they actually banned private helipads all over the country, all over India, in residential areas, on top of residential rooftops. Taking inspiration from this, the airport authority decided that they would also do their two bits to make noise an issue in aviation. And they came up with the first silent airport in the world in Mumbai. And Mumbai was the first airport where they actually stopped having those announcements. And now, we enjoy them in so many major airports where we can just look at signboards and figure out where we have to go, and not have these constant announcements, one on top of the other, every airline trying to speak louder than the other. Have some peace and quiet. Of course, then residents of Delhi took up the issue also, and they got various very good court orders from the Delhi High Court. And then we managed to get collectively changes in the noise rules to include aviation in 2011. So that's my story of noise and aviation, which is a small part of the other noise work I have done. but I think very important, because at least now when we talk of new airports and we talk of greenfield airports, we do talk of noise planning in all of them. There were some noise mapping studies in which, I had some say in what a noise map is and why it should be done. And they were done by the government for even the existing airports.
Right.
I can't say noise has stopped, but it's helped.
And I think what is amazing is, Sumaira, you have focused on both the noise being generated out of the your flight operations as well as the noise being generated inside the airport, right? So you did not restrict yourself to a particular view of noise, which was the external noise, but also the inside noise. And as I said, the Mumbai silent airport was the result of your activity. So thank you for doing that for our country and for all of us, because we really enjoy that silence in the airports, and we can take our calls and we can do our work inside, and on the outside I think it has really reduced as well. And thank you for giving us those regulations, because I think that was needed by the country. My next question would be, as a woman and, dealing with these industries like the sand mining industry and the aviation industry, and a lot of activity which happens where a lot of political interest is involved. So what were your challenges and how did you overcome those challenges? Who were your, pillars of support, and what do you advise for women to take up such challenges in future?
I think I'm talking to a converted audience already, because I'm speaking to women who have done amazing work in the field of aviation. So many firsts in aviation who are here, who are part of IWPA, and Harpreet also, and everybody. So, I don't know. I can just talk about my two bits in a slightly different industry, but I think it's practically the same. That if a woman decides that she's going to do it, then I don't think that it matters. And in fact, you need to stop thinking that you're a woman or you're a man it's the society around you, and people treat you the way you expect to be treated. So if you expect that you're not going to be treated well, then you are not going to be treated well. But if you expect that you are equal to a man and able to do what he is doing, then you can do it. That doesn't mean to say that there are no glass ceilings and that there are no uphill battles, and that a lot of the times people do discount women and assume that they are not quite up to it. That does happen, particularly in the beginning. And this is why we need strong women mentors who will show you the way and show you that it can be done. And it need not even be in this, it helps if it's in the same field, but it need not be. It's more a matter of attitude, that you don't take no for an answer. So I think that's across industries, and we have had women prime ministers in this country and women leading in every field. My mother was a great inspiration to me, as was my grandmother, who was jailed during the freedom movement, and other women in my family who refused to take no for an answer in whatever field they were. So I think really it's that.
So what you're saying is that role modeling by women of every generation and having a strong mentor really helps, and that keeps the ball rolling, right? And you've been fortunate, and I think so have we been fortunate in having a lot of mentors, and Harpreet is one of them, and Lynn is another, and we are a collective sisterhood trying to make the best for the women around. Thank you so much for those bits of wisdom. The next question I have is that, what do you think, other than the mentoring relationship, is one key attribute or characteristics of personality that helps you survive every oddity on the way?
Well, I think we may all have different key aspects of our personalities which have helped us survive. For myself, I was a very shy child. And
Okay.
my mother again and again says that the last person in the world we thought would take on the kind of activities that you
Exactly.
knew, because you wouldn't speak all
Yeah.
through school. So I don't think there is one key activity. I
Hmm.
don't think confidence can be defined by personality quite like that. It's
Okay.
the it's just determination to go ahead and do what you have to do.
Hmm.
And I think your own desire to make a difference in the world. And that comes again from many times from your circumstances and the people who are encouraging you to think, to not give up, that you don't have to give up. I don't think it's anything beyond that. I think you can have any kind of personality and still take on stuff. After all, when men are in leadership roles, they continue to work until they reach the limit of whatever they can do, just because it's expected. So I think the most important attribute that you need to have is that you should simply expect it of yourself and nothing beyond that.
Right. Thank you so much. And, it is very interesting that you say that you were a shy child, and then from shy child to being an activist and taking up really tough issues in front of the government and the courts. That is an incredible journey, I must say, from childhood to your, wisdom of being a lady in command. So it's so inspiring. When I'm speaking, I'm getting goosebumps. Like, I have seen, as lawyer, for me to speak, random is very easy, but I know what it means to appear before a court. I still have to prepare a lot and, get over the reservation of appearing before a judge. So it is amazing that you, with the background that you have, and you, developed all those facts and literature and did your research and appeared before a court and got the orders. It's incredible, and congratulations for that. The final question I have is about the work that you have done in your contribution to the UN bodies and on environment. So if you can help us understand a bit about that work and inspire us further on this.
Well, I never thought I'd ever speak with the UN, but it happened that way. Because I grew up on a beach in Alibag, which in those days when I was growing up was a pretty unknown place. But of course now it isn't. And I saw sand mining happening there, and I thought, oh well, I must complain. And I went and complained, and everybody kind of laughed at me that this is not an issue at all. And so I realized that I have to do something, otherwise my beach is going to go. And if it's not now, then it's never. So the collector had told me, catch them red-handed. So I did catch them red-handed, which of course in hindsight is pure foolishness. But I got beaten up, and I realized that when you're attacked like that, and so you're at the same time told this is a non-issue, but someone's going to attack you to make sure you don't complain, then it's not as much as a non-issue, as they're saying. So I tried to find more information and realized how little information was available. In fact, there was nothing. So with great difficulty, filed public interest litigation. And then I was approached by the director of a film called Sand Wars. And he had almost wrapped up his filming, but he said he read about this attack. And so he came to India. He was only here for 3 days. And he said that unfortunately in those 3 days when he wanted to film sand mining, the sand mining had been shut down by the government because somebody else had been attacked. So there was no sand mining for him to film, and he was very disappointed. He took interviews with me and went back and said, I won't be able to include it. But I said, I have some amateur video, and that was the first video camera I had ever had, and can I send you that? So he actually used my amateur video and included it in his film, which won numerous awards and was seen by the UN. And after they saw that film, the UN took up the issue of sand mining for the first time. And before that, just before the UN took it up, before they saw the film, the UN had their conference of parties here in India, and I presented the issue of sand mining to them. And again, everybody was like, well, everywhere in the world we see sand mining happening, but we didn't know it was an issue. So when the UN finally did take it up, they had in 2018 their very first roundtable in Geneva, and they invited me to give the keynote address. And then they made a report which was given to the UN body, and whatever had been put in that report and Awaaz Foundation's work was featured throughout that report. It was the first report on critical mining, critical minerals, and sand was a part of it, including our work. So that was my brush with the UN. So that was very great for me to feel that this can, of course, after that, the government changed its policies through the court orders, through the UN reports, all that. So it just goes to show that whether it's aviation, like what my mother did, or what Harpreet did in, becoming the first CEO, you don't set out to become these things. You
Right.
set out doing what you feel passionate about, and then you never know.
Right. You walk the path and then you reach the sun and the moon. That's it. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you do, maybe you don't, but doesn't matter because you have to do it anyway, right?
See
Before you
the stars. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. And I would now open the floor for Harpreet and Lynn if you have any questions or any other participant who wants to have a conversation with Sumaira.
Yeah, I just had a query, Sumaira. Firstly, lovely hearing you speak and highly motivating. Both you and your mom are really remarkable ladies, so compliments for that. We've learned a lot from both of you. I had a question linked to, the recent DGCA civil aviation requirements which have come on the environment. And they have given some noise decibel numbers and what not to exceed. And even one is for the airport side, and even operationally, like when the crew are flying, they are monitoring the decibel sound. And so has your organization actually studied that data or provided some input? Do you think what is written in the car is actually accurate? Like, is that something that is correctly done, or does it need a review?
So when companies tell you that this is the decibel level of a particular engine, that's tested under ideal conditions in the factory. How it tests outdoors is a matter which has to be done outdoors. Therefore, environmental noise and factory noise are two different things. Engine noise are two different things. And I'm not sure how much testing has been done of environmental noise in these reports. The government thereafter set up various committees to look at different aspects of noise with professionals in them. I have a noise meter and I can do testing of environmental noise, but this kind of testing of an airport requires very sophisticated equipment, which I am not equipped to do. So no, I have not been part of that committee and I have not done it. But I'd be happy to look at it and give you whatever inputs I can.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Anyone else for any questions? Lynn?
Yes. Yeah, Sumaira, actually, I wanted to say, when I was at London, Heathrow has a lot of these, safeguards, for noise or something, some rules. So generally, even if the aircraft is landing in a certain angle due to which the noise is more, so even taking off at a certain angle, so they have made they have widened that, made it more steep so that there's lesser time where you can hear the noise of the aircraft. Also, it's one of the busiest airports if you see even on flight radar also. So probably that's why. But is there anything done as such for India or any such requirements?
No.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at airports in, say, Japan, they're not allowed to fly after 7 o'clock at all if they're in residential areas, which is why that Osaka airport, the new one, was built in the middle of the sea to prevent that. So there are many things done in many countries. But in India, because we are a hub which is kind of the place where aircraft land in the middle of the night so that they can do daytime flights in other airports which are more strict with noise rules. So this is a huge issue which we are not looking at all. In fact, I think there would be a lot of controversy on whether we can take action like that. But simpler actions like, flight paths and steepness of flights and it's, over which residences they can fly over, also how close residences can be built to new airports like the Navi Mumbai airport. These are all things which should be looked into. But again, because of the whole conflict between development as we would like it to accelerate in our country and these kind of environmental regulations, it's an uphill task.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lynn.
Sumaira, thank you so much for your time. And I think we've, just reached the time limit today. We would love to have another series of conversations with you sometime in the future again, continuing the journey of inspiration. And look forward to having you again with us. Have a great Women's Day week and a great Women's Day event on March 8th. And it was a pleasure having you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rakhee. Thank you to IWPA. Thank you to everybody here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thanks. You too.